I am definitely someone who used to think I knew the right way to get somebody to do what I thought they should do. And it turns out I was wrong. And I have learned a way to do this that actually works. Um, and it's completely backwards from what I had ever thought would work when you're trying to get somebody to do what you think they ought to be doing. Um, in fact, the way that I wrote it in my notes is how to get others to do what's best for them, what you think is best for them. And so that's what I want to take you into today is a way to do this. I will not call it a foolproof way because I don't believe in such things. There's I guess what I will say is I'm excited to take you into this because it's a mindset shift. That is useful both for us and for the person that we wish they would be doing what we think they should be doing. Um, yeah, so I'm glad you're along for the ride. It's great to see you. I am Kay. Kay Locke Culp is my name. I'm a coach. I am an artist. I'm a writer. Um, and I'm really glad to be able to have the opportunity to bring these ideas, which are very often a little bit counterculture, but I mean that in a good, like, I not that there isn't a good way necessarily, but I mean that in a way of like everybody, you know what it is? We have these sort of like uh, conventional wisdom. I think that's really the term that I'm thinking of. Um, we have these conventional wisdoms about a lot of whether it's in a professional sense or whether it's parenting or um, the ways that like we're sort of taught that the world work and the discovery that in fact the world works a lot of ways in the exact opposite way and things feel a lot better and relationships go a lot better, whether they're, with colleagues or bosses or people that we supervise or our children or our spouses or our friends or our parents. There are ways to sort of do this that are supportive and that feel good in here and that feel good for them, or that at least have a better chance of feeling good for them. And I'm excited to take you into one of them today. So here's how I used to do it. When I thought that someone was doing something that not what I thought they should be doing, I think my kids are really good examples of this, right? Like, um, when they were really little and it was about like don't run in the road, don't put your hand on the stove, don't, make sure you're safe in all of these ways, that that was definitely, I felt good about communicating that even if it was received badly, like clearly no one is allowed to run in the road when there's a car coming, like no one is, you need to have an awareness of your surroundings, right? Like that felt elementary to me, and there was no way in hell I wasn't going to teach that to my kids, right? Even if it was something that they didn't think they needed to know, or that that even if it was something that they wished they didn't have to do, they still had to do it, right? When things got tricky was when they became, I would say, early adolescence. And that happened. My work has been, my career started in human dynamics, human development. Family relations is actually human development and family relations is the literal title of my degree, my Bachelor of Science. And like, so adolescence starts before we see it. Adolescence starts around, ooh, sometimes even 10 or 11 years old. Before there are any outward signs, they're changing inside. And there's a real drive for independence and a real drive for um, not wanting to do things other people's way. And sometimes that can be, sometimes we'll get pushback and sometimes we'll get a sort of like resigned acceptance. And sometimes we'll see feelings held back or held in. And yeah, it's just, it can be really challenging all around because we want them to do what we think they should do and they're not happy with that. And that was really where it started to be a little challenging with with my kids, basically. Uh, because I'm trying to make this a personal, I really I want to show you how this happened for me from the inside. Um, and what I noticed was I would try to say to them what I thought they should be doing, and they would either, yell at me or push back in some other way, like, not physically, but they'd just be mad, right? They would just be upset and frustrated. Um, and sometimes they would sort of hold that in and walk away, uh, and that could, there was resentment, right? There were just these negative feelings. And eventually, I think I read, actually, I don't remember the name of this book, but I was given a great book that was really helpful it was like a parenting book, and it was just really helpful in understanding that there could be a different dynamic, that you don't have to do things the way that it was done for you, or if, not that my parents were tyrants, but they they didn't love when I was frustrated or angry either, right? Um, and so this book basically says, like, how can it gives ways to treat your new adolescence in a way that is respectful, because that's what will get that is what will garner respect for you, and the sort of having a reciprocal respect dynamic, rather than I'm telling you what to do, no, you can't tell me what to do, right? And so it's funny, I don't even remember what the advice was in that book. It was so long ago, but it was definitely the beginning of a journey of awareness that, like, this could be different. It doesn't have to be banging on the table or walking away in anger. It could be something different. And um that evolved into something that I think of, and this is not my idea. This was given to me by a coach, a different, in the I don't remember which coach, but in the somewhere in the coaching world is someone who talks about dashboard indicator lights. So kind of the next level for me of getting my kids to do what I thought they should be doing, after I sort of had started with this level of respect, was to have them. What I did was I said to them, and they were probably at this point they were probably maybe 14 and 18 years old. So this came a little late for me, but it worked, and it continues to work. What I said to them was, if I am giving you advice, please know that that is an indicator. Like, there's if I have a dashboard in here, that's an indicator light on my dashboard that something's wrong in here that I need to go take care of. Um, and I was really clear on that, because I didn't want them to think that they were going to have to take care of it or take care of me. But basically saying, if I'm giving you advice, it means something's going on in here. And I would really like to know about that so that I can go and take care of it. And then I won't be giving you advice anymore. I'll just be handling what I need to handle, minding my own business. And I'll never forget the first time that one of the kids reflected that back to me, saying, because I was apparently on them, giving them advice, telling them what I thought they should be doing. And they said, Mom, almost with a cringing sort of like, they said, Mom, um, are you okay? Because you're giving me advice right now, and you told me to tell you when you were giving me advice. And it was like having, in a good way, I guess, it was like having sort of a spritz of water poured on me. And I said, you're right. I am. And I said, I apologize. That means there's something going on in here, and I need to go sort it out. And it was so interesting, because there really was something going on inside. This was when I was getting ready to do my hike across England. And I don't remember what the deal was, but I was freaking out about something that had to do with that. And to have this kid say to me, what I had asked him to say, was amazing. And really it worked. Like, it was really quite helpful. Um, and the reason that I wanted to bring that into the conversation today is because what I've learned is that, and what's really effective is to behave in a way that isn't telling, that is instead um, listening, really. That is sort of that reflective listening where when someone is spilling over with emotions and you say, "Oh, wow, that sounds really hard for you. It sounds like you're saying, this is what's happening for you. Is that true?" And oftentimes they'll just go, "Yeah, it is." And they can then we're giving them the space to kind of take the space that they need, really, or take the breath that they need to set it down or to decide what to do about it without being told. And what they do, this is what I've noticed, is uh, very often they do better than what my advice would have been. And almost always it's at least what my advice would have been. They do themselves. And sometimes they have an even better idea. And like I'm remembering one of my kids, our oldest is a paramedic. And so he often does like 24-hour shifts or 36-hour shifts. And after one such long shift and then a busy day following it where he just didn't get a lot of sleep, it was the end of the day and he was trying to get something to like print on the printer. And he was losing his fucking mind because just couldn't make it work. Like there was some toggle that was off or something like that. And it was going to require patience. I don't remember why. Like it just wasn't going to be able to work that night. And he was like, he was really upset. And I just stood and just sent heart love. I just had this vision of like love going from my heart out to him, and I just listened, right? And I wasn't trying to tell him what to do. I was just there to just hear. And I mean, to be clear, he wasn't ranting. He wasn't like I didn't feel unsafe, right? He was just complaining. I mean, he was just really freaking out. And so I want to make a distinction there. This isn't about letting someone um, berate you or belittle you or hurt you. That's not what reflective listening is at all. Reflective listening is, wow, I hear this is happening for you, and that sounds really hard. And just continuing to listen, right? Um, Anything else, if it goes beyond that, or if you're feeling like not safe or blamed or something like that, it's definitely time to say, okay, we're going to need to come back to this conversation when you're a little more settled and walking away. Sometimes that's what has to happen. But in this case, what happened was I listened and listened, and my son spoke and spoke, and all of a sudden he stopped and he went, "I need to go to sleep." I said, "What a great idea." And I gave him a hug and he went off. He didn't live here at this point anymore. He was trying to get something to print here, but he lived, he's doesn't live with us anymore. And so he went home and he went to sleep. And then the next day, magically, everything worked. Right? Um, Getting people to do what we think they should be doing I've learned, is so much less about telling them what to do and so much more about listening as they come up with the idea of what to do. And it's so often the idea that we would have said or better. And the thing that's great about it is it was their idea, so they feel really empowered to do it. Like it's not somebody telling them, it's them. And I think the last story that I want to share around this is how it feels from the other side. Um, because there was a night or a day where when I was getting ready to do my hike. So I solo hiked across northern England in May of 2023. And so this was, I believe, like in April of 2023. We were getting, as we got closer, for whatever reason, as we got closer to the day of getting on the plane, I just got more and more sort of pressure filled. I felt, the way that I've been saying it is, I felt like I was a rocket getting ready to be shot off. And rockets go off you light a rocket on the ground, right? Like, so there's just this big as the rocket's getting ready to go up into the air. And that's totally how I felt. Um, I need to, there we go. Okay. I've been feeling like I have to sit up tall or whatever, and this is much better. Okay. So one of those days I was losing my mind about something. And my husband said to me, and one of our kids was around as well. And my husband said to me, "Do you want to know what I think you should do?" And I said, "Actually, I really don't." I said, "Could you please listen to me and just listen and not tell me what to do and just use your just have your listening hat on, have your listening ears on." And he said, "Okay." And so he and our son were just listening to me pour out whatever was frustrating me or whatever was upsetting me. And then I got to a point where I was like, "Oh, I could probably do this." And my husband said, "That's exactly what I was going to tell you to do." And it was so lovely. Like we were on the same page, but I got there myself. If I had been told, I might have balked at that. I might have been like, "Yeah, I don't really, you don't get to tell me what to do." Like I didn't want to necessarily listen to someone. I wanted to feel heard. And then when I came up with this idea, it was just so funny that it happened to be the idea that he'd been thinking of. It works the opposite of how we think it works in so many instances, and this is definitely one of them. So if you if you have loved ones in your life and they're not necessarily doing what you think they should be doing, um, or if you are being told, and oftentimes it works in both directions, because when we are telling people what we think they should be doing, often like when I get curious about that for myself, what I notice is that I'm not feeling okay inside. If I'm involving myself overly in other people's business, it's because I don't want to look at what the hell's going on in here. And so I've gotten good at noticing that pattern before something comes out of my mouth most of the time. I mean, not with perfection, and that's okay. So it works in both directions, right? Like when someone is spilling over with emotion and they want to tell us what they think we should do, we're like, "Hey, get out of my business." And so to be able to say something like, you know, something non-combative, something that's like, "Thank you very much for your perspective." And then you get to go off and figure it out for yourself, understanding that they are not in a place where they can mind their own business for whatever reason. That it doesn't have anything to do with us. It really has to do with them. So there's that perspective. And then the other way of when I'm telling someone what to do, it means that something's going on in here. And if I can just shut that switch off and listen to them, they'll something will occur to them, or it won't, and they'll go for a walk, or they'll go to bed like my son did, and they'll figure it out for themselves. But it's not on me to figure it out for them. Um, and very often, what they end up doing is what I would have told them, or something even better that I hadn't even thought of. So, yeah, that's that's where I want to leave it today. I hope this is helpful. It was such a complete reversal of all of my thinking when I first started to be able to even conceive of this and then to actually do it feels amazing because it has worked really, really well. And with clients, with the people that I work with, to be able to give them that mindset shift and then see how it works in their lives. And then see sometimes people will come back to me and they'll say, "You know what, my kid is doing this now," or my spouse is doing this now, or my mom is doing this now. Instead of over involving themselves, they're coming at it from a different way because they saw a different result, when I started doing it. Like fascinating how the positive dynamics can spread just as easily as negative ones. So it's on us to figure out what are we bringing our attention to. And in this case, bringing our attention to um, letting really listening and being a reflective person instead of telling is what helps people do what we think they should do anyway. Thank you for being here. It means a lot. I hope this is helpful and it just means a lot to have you on the journey with me. If you've got any questions, our second season is coming up. I've got just a few more videos um, in season one, and then we will be moving on to season two. And I'd really love to hear from you about what questions you have, what you'd like to learn about that I might be able to teach. You know, if there are relationship things or mindset things or anything you're trying to do in your life and you're wondering like, I don't know how to do it. I think I'd love to hear about that. And I'd love to really hear and listen. First of all, I think that's amazing to hear about the things that people want to create in their lives. And then maybe there's a way that I can be helpful for you. You know what I mean? Even if it's something like telling a story that that where something shifted for me, or I don't know, answering questions or something like that. I'd really love to be supportive. Um, yeah, and I'm grateful that you're here. If you are curious, I have started a group, like a group in the school platform, which is for people uh, who have really been in service to others for a, for a long time. However, I mean, however we characterize that. If we're parents, if we're trying to show up for the children that we teach, for example, if we're teachers, or if we're trying to show up for our colleagues, or you know, there are so many ways that we can be caregivers for others. And what this group is about is like what happens, or it's about being curious about what might happen if we bring that kind of care that we bring to others to ourselves, and seeing what it shifts. So the link is in the show notes if you'd like to check that out. It'd be great to see you in there. And in the meantime, I'm just grateful that you're here. I'm looking forward to when we are together again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.